Have you ever felt that the world around you glitches for just a second? Like a shadow moves where it shouldn't, or a doorway seems a little too dark? Tonight, we're stepping into those forgotten cracks, places where parallel worlds breathe right beside us. These classic horror films don't just scare you, they make you question what's real. Stay with me, because some of these dimensions don't like letting people go. If you enjoy this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling explorations. 1. The Dark Tower, 1987. A young boy discovers a mysterious tower hiding a doorway into a world where nightmares breathe, and once he steps in, something steps out with him. There's something strangely magnetic about stories where a child becomes the bridge between two worlds. The Dark Tower pulls you in with that exact sensation, the feeling that innocence can accidentally open doors that were never meant to be touched. And once that door creaks open, the air changes. You feel it before you even see what's on the other side. Have you ever had that moment, when a place suddenly feels wrong, even if nothing looks unusual? That's the atmosphere this film thrives on. The heart of the story follows a young boy who becomes entangled with a sinister parallel dimension. One that feeds on fear, grief, and the vulnerability of those who wander too close to its threshold. As you watch him drawn toward a strange old tower, you can almost hear the whisper behind the walls, the kind that makes you glance over your shoulder. This isn't just another haunted building tale. It's a journey into a world that mirrors ours but twists every familiar shape into something disturbingly alive. What makes this film so haunting isn't the visuals alone. It's the sense that the boy isn't simply seeing another reality, he's being seen by it. Have you ever wondered what might stare back if you looked too long into a dark hallway? A cracked door, or your own reflection at night? The movie leans into that primal discomfort, the fear that something from the other side notices your presence and decides to follow. As the story unfolds, reality grows thinner, like fabric pulled tight until you can almost glimpse the shapeless movements underneath. Adults dismiss the boy's warnings, but the tower knows him, calls to him, almost as if it had been waiting. And deep inside, something hungry begins to awaken. One of the reasons this film still holds weight is the emotional core beneath the horror. It's not just about monsters, it's about how easily a child can be misunderstood, unheard, and left alone with terrors far bigger than themselves. And here's where I want to hear from you. Do you think children in horror movies genuinely sense things adults can't? Or is it all symbolic storytelling? I'm really curious about your take, because The Dark Tower uses that theme in a way that stays under your skin long after the credits roll. If parallel worlds fascinate you, or unsettle you, this film belongs on your must-watch list. Just remember, whenever a door appears where it shouldn't, sometimes the safest choice is not to open it. 2. The Gate, 1987. When two kids stumble upon a mysterious hole in their backyard, they unknowingly open a doorway to a world crawling with demonic creatures waiting to spill into ours. There's something eerie about the idea that the most terrifying gateways aren't hidden in ancient temples or cursed catacombs, they're right beneath our feet. Buried in the quiet places we never think twice about. The Gate taps into that childhood fear perfectly. The fear that the familiar backyard you grew up playing in might be connected to something far older, darker, and far more patient. And once that hole cracks open, you can almost feel the cold breath of something waiting below. Have you ever sensed that a place you thought you knew suddenly felt different? The story wraps you in the perspective of two young boys who accidentally trigger a chain of supernatural events after discovering strange geodes and symbols in the ground. But what's gripping about this film isn't just the monsters, it's the way the world around them begins to shift. Slowly at first, then violently, as though reality is peeling back layer by layer. One moment everything feels normal, the next, shadows start moving where they shouldn't, whispers echo from corners you thought were empty, and nightmares begin leaking through the cracks. What truly gives The Gate its power is the emotional tension beneath the chaos. These aren't heroes. They're kids trying to make sense of a world unraveling around them. And that vulnerability makes every moment hit harder. Think about it. What would you have done at their age if you realized something from another dimension was reaching into your home? Would anyone have believed you? The film constantly plays with that doubt, that helplessness, that fear that adults will dismiss your warnings until it's too late. As the demonic world claws closer, the boys must confront the terrifying truth that the boundary between dimensions isn't as solid as we like to believe. Sometimes it's as thin as a backyard pit. Sometimes it's held together by nothing more than childhood bravery. And sometimes, the door doesn't just open, it pulls you in. Here's something I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Do you think horror hits harder when it follows kids facing the supernatural? Or do adult-centered stories scare you more? For many viewers, the innocence of children makes the danger feel sharper, more believable, almost painfully real. If the idea of hidden dimensions lurking right under your everyday world intrigues you, The Gate isn't just a movie, it's a warning. Because who knows what sleeps beneath the places you walk over every day, and what might wake up if you disturb it. 3. The Beyond, 1981. Lucio Fulci. A woman inherits an old Louisiana hotel, only to discover it sits on a gateway to a nightmarish parallel world that refuses to stay closed. Some stories don't ease you in, they drag you straight into the dark. Like a hand reaching from beneath murky water. The Beyond is exactly that kind of descent. From the moment the hotel doors creak open, you feel something watching, something ancient, something that never truly left. It's as if the walls remember every scream that once echoed inside them. Tell me, have you ever stepped into a place that felt haunted even before you knew its history? What makes this film so mesmerizing is the atmosphere, thick, suffocating, almost dreamlike, but not the pleasant kind of dream. More like the ones where the floor keeps shifting beneath you and you're never sure if what you're seeing is real or if the nightmare has already swallowed you whole. Fulci doesn't just show horror, he makes you sink into it. He turns the hotel into a breathing creature, and every corridor feels like a throat tightening around you. As the paranormal events unfold, the boundary between this world and something terrifyingly other begins to thin. Bending logic, twisting time, and swallowing the characters, and you, into its void. The further the story goes, the more it abandons the idea of reality altogether. Dead figures begin to wander. Storms of shadow and dust spill through the rooms. And the hotel becomes less a building and more a crossroads where dimensions bleed into each other. Imagine standing in a place where every doorway could lead to another universe. One shaped by pain and silence. Would you walk through it? Or would you run, knowing something might follow? And then there's the ending, an unforgettable plunge into a parallel realm that looks like a painting of despair brought to life. A place where the lost wander with empty eyes. Where sound seems swallowed by endless mist. It's haunting not because it's loud or violent, but because it feels final. Like a realization that once you step too far into the unknown, there may be no road back. What grips me most about The Beyond is how it makes you question the nature of reality itself. How fragile it is, how easily it can crack. And that's something I want to ask you. Do you think alternate dimensions in horror films represent actual hidden worlds? Or do they symbolize the fears we bury inside ourselves? I'd love to hear your interpretation. If you're drawn to horror that feels like drifting through a nightmare you can't wake up from, The Beyond is a journey you won't forget, one that stays with you long after the final scene fades. Whispering that some doors should never be opened, yet they open anyway. 4. Prince of Darkness, 1987. A mysterious cylinder filled with swirling green liquid is discovered beneath an abandoned church, and the moment you hear what scientists believe it contains, you'll start questioning everything you think you know about good, evil, and the fragile barrier between our world and the next. Have you ever wondered what would happen if science and religion finally collided, and both turned out to be right? Prince of Darkness takes that question and drags you straight into a slow-burn nightmare where reality slips apart one horrifying inch at a time. As the research team studies the strange substance, something begins whispering to them, pulling them toward a truth they're absolutely not prepared to understand. And here's the question for you. If you were one of those researchers, would you dare stay in that church overnight? Or would you run the moment the dreams began? As the story unfolds, the team experiences identical visions from the future, broadcast into their minds like warnings from a world that already collapsed. The film plays with this chilling idea. What if your nightmares were just memories sent backward through time? That's the kind of concept that hooks you before you even realize it. And once it grabs hold, the movie refuses to let go. Carpenter builds tension not with loud scares, but with the slow, creeping feeling that something ancient and infinitely patient is waking up right behind you. Inside the church, reality behaves like it's starting to unravel. Mirrors stop reflecting what they should. Shadows move before the person does. And the deeper the characters investigate the cylinder, the more it feels like they're studying the universe, studying them back. This is where the film shines. Instead of telling you everything outright, it lets your imagination fill in the most terrifying pieces. And honestly, isn't that always scarier? Let me know in the comments what you think. Is cosmic horror more frightening when you can't fully explain it? As the presence inside the cylinder grows stronger, possession spreads through the church like a virus. One by one, the team members are turned into emotionless vessels controlled by something from the other side. And the scariest part? They don't scream. They don't panic. They simply change, slowly, quietly, inevitably. If that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. By the time the climax comes, when the mirror finally reveals its true purpose, you'll feel that same dreadful pull the characters feel. You might even catch yourself leaning closer to the screen, waiting to see what reaches out next. So tell me, if you discovered a portal like that, would you try to close it, or would curiosity win? 5. Event Horizon, 1997. A rescue crew boards a long-lost spaceship that suddenly reappears near Neptune, but the moment they step inside, it becomes terrifyingly clear the ship didn't just vanish, it went somewhere. And whatever came back with it is not done with them. So tell me, if a door to another dimension opened right in front of you, would you dare look inside? There's something uniquely unsettling about the kind of silence that comes from deep space, the kind that feels thick, heavy, almost alive. Event Horizon takes that silence and cracks it open, revealing a darkness that feels both ancient and hungry. From the moment the crew arrives, the ship greets them like a haunted cathedral drifting through the void. And honestly, it's impossible not to feel that little twinge of dread. Have you ever stepped into a place where the air felt wrong, as if the walls were holding their breath? That's exactly the kind of atmosphere this film traps you in. As they explore the hallways, the Event Horizon doesn't just sit there like a dead machine, it watches. It listens, it remembers, and the characters begin to see things that shouldn't be possible, visions that cut straight into their past traumas, their buried guilt, their deepest fears. That's one of the hooks that makes this movie so gripping. Instead of monsters jumping out at you, the horror crawls out from inside the characters themselves. And it makes you wonder, if the ship showed you something from your past, what would it be? Would you be able to face it? The drive core, with its rotating metal rings and eerie glow, becomes the beating heart of the nightmare. The way the characters approach it feels almost ritualistic, like they're stepping closer to a forbidden altar. And when they finally uncover where the ship has been, well, that revelation hits like a whisper straight to the spine. The Event Horizon didn't simply travel through space, it crossed into a dimension that feels like hell, not because of fire or demons, but because it strips away everything safe, everything familiar, leaving only chaos and torment. It's the kind of concept that sticks with you long after the movie ends. Do you think the worst horrors come from outside, or from inside the human mind? As tensions rise, paranoia spreads through the crew like wildfire. Friends suddenly feel like strangers. Every shadow feels a little too dense, every sound a little too close. And the ship, almost like a living being, begins pulling them apart one by one. The more they try to escape, the more it feels like the ship is choosing who gets to leave, and who stays forever. By the final act, you can practically feel the characters' desperation seeping through the screen. So here's my question for you. If you realized your ship wanted you, not as a passenger but as a sacrifice, what would you do? Would you fight it, or would fear take over? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. 6. The City of Lost Children, 1995. A mysterious villain steals children's dreams to escape his own aging nightmare, pulling everyone into a surreal parallel world where nothing feels quite real. Sounds unsettling already, doesn't it? There's a strange kind of beauty in stories where reality seems to wobble, where each step feels like you're sinking deeper into someone else's imagination. The City of Lost Children embraces that feeling completely, wrapping you in an atmosphere so dreamlike that you start to question what's real right alongside the characters. Have you ever had a dream so vivid you woke up unsure which world you belong to? That sense of disorientation is exactly what makes this film linger long after the credits roll. We follow a strongman named One as he desperately searches for a missing child. And from the very beginning, his journey feels like wandering through the pages of an eerie fairy tale. The world he moves through is grimy yet enchanting, full of rusted metal, fog-drenched streets, and strange little corners where time seems to bend. Every frame feels like a painting dipped in darkness. And honestly, part of the hook here is that you never know what kind of bizarre creature or invention might appear next. Doesn't that kind of unpredictability make you lean in just a little closer? The villain, Crank, is a creation that feels straight out of a fevered imagination, a man who can't dream. Desperately siphoning dreams from stolen children to keep himself alive. It's haunting, but also oddly tragic. Imagine being trapped in a world where you can't dream at all. Would that slowly drive you mad? Or worse, would it rob you of your humanity piece by piece? I'm curious what you think. Does the inability to dream count as a horror in itself? As One continues his search, he crosses paths with a group of children who seem to know more about survival than most adults. Their courage and mischief add a spark of chaotic energy to the otherwise eerie setting, reminding us that even in the darkest places, the human spirit pushes back. But the deeper they all go, the clearer it becomes that the city is woven from memories, fears, and fractured realities. It's not just a place, it's a reflection of all the broken pieces people try to hide. And that's where the parallel world element quietly sinks its claws in. The world of this film is familiar and foreign at the same time. Like a distorted mirror held a little too close to your face. There's a subtle dread in the idea that you might turn a corner and see yourself staring back. Only, not quite you. So let me ask you something. If you found yourself in a world that looked like yours but felt off, what would be the first thing you'd check to see if you were still in the right reality? Drop your thoughts below. I genuinely want to know what your instinct would be. 7. The Langoliers, 1995. A group of passengers wake up mid-flight to find most people on the plane have vanished, and the world they land in feels terrifyingly empty. Already gives you chills, right? There's something uniquely unsettling about an abandoned world, especially when it still looks familiar, as if everyone simply stepped out for a moment and forgot to return. The Langoliers leans into that fear with slow, creeping dread, inviting you to imagine what it would feel like to walk through a place where time itself seems to have stopped breathing. Have you ever experienced one of those moments when everything around you suddenly goes quiet? And for a second you wonder if you're completely alone? That eerie silence is exactly the vibe this story brings to life. As the survivors explore the empty airport, you can practically feel their unease settling into your own spine. Food has no taste, clocks tick wrong, sound feels muted, the world looks real, but acts dead. And that's where the hook digs in deep. Something has gone wrong with time. Something they don't understand and can't outrun. Doesn't that idea make you wonder what might be lurking behind the moments we take for granted? One of the most gripping parts is how the characters start turning on themselves. Driven by fear and confusion, it's a reminder that when the world collapses, the real monsters might be the people standing next to you. Even so, there's a strange camaraderie forming among them, a fragile thread of hope that makes you root for their survival. I'm curious, in a crisis like this, do you think you'd stick with the group, or break off and trust your own instincts? And of course, hovering at the edge of this decaying world are the Langoliers themselves, creatures that eat time, devouring everything left behind as the universe moves forward. The idea is bizarre, even a little whimsical, yet the film makes it feel dreadfully real. The sound of them approaching, that grinding, chewing noise, is one of those things that burrows into your memory and refuses to leave. Imagine knowing that something is coming for you, not because it's hunting you, but because you're simply in the wrong reality at the wrong time. That's what makes this parallel world concept so haunting. The characters aren't trapped in another dimension created by magic or portals. They've slipped behind time's curtain into a version of the world that's already been discarded. It asks a chilling question. What happens to the moments we leave behind? Do they just fade, or does something clean them up? I'd love to know. Does the idea of being left behind by time scare you? Or does it spark your curiosity about how reality really works? Drop your thoughts below and let's see how you would interpret this eerie possibility. 8. From Beyond, 1986. A scientist builds a machine that lets humans perceive creatures from another dimension, and the moment it activates, everything starts to go horribly wrong. Already curious what they saw, right? There's something fascinating about the idea that reality might be layered like thin sheets of paper, with other worlds pressed right up against ours. From Beyond takes that idea and twists it into something grotesque, thrilling, and strangely intimate. The story grabs you from the start. What if the only thing separating you from a universe of monsters is your inability to sense them? And what if a single machine could rip that barrier away? Let me ask you, would you dare turn it on? Even once? As the resonator hums to life, the film drifts into a fever dream atmosphere where nothing feels stable. The rules of the physical world bend, and the characters' bodies begin to change in ways that feel both terrifying and tragic. Watching them struggle, you almost feel pulled with them, as if curiosity itself becomes a kind of infection. I think that's part of what makes this movie so gripping. It's not just about creatures lurking in the darkness, but about the human desire to know, to push further, even when the price is madness. Do you think you'd be able to stop yourself from looking? Or would the temptation be too strong? The dynamic between Crawford Tillinghast and Dr. Catherine McMichaels adds another layer of tension. They're trapped between discovery and destruction, between brilliance and insanity, wandering deeper into a reality where desires become physical and fear becomes tangible. The film paints their journey almost like a descent into a forbidden dream, where every step reveals something unsettling about both the universe and themselves. It's strange, isn't it, how horror can reflect our own hidden impulses? And then there are the creatures, slimy, shifting beings that seem to float in and out of existence, always watching, always waiting. Their presence raises a chilling thought. Maybe our world is never truly empty. Maybe we're never as alone as we think. Just imagine for a second, what if something was standing next to you right now? Invisible, curious, reaching? Would you want to know, or would ignorance be a mercy? What makes From Beyond unforgettable is how it blurs the line between parallel worlds and the human psyche. It suggests that the most horrifying transformations might not come from the monsters out there, but from what the other side awakens inside us. So I'm genuinely curious, what scares you more? The idea of creatures in another dimension? Or the idea that exploring that dimension might change you into something unrecognizable? 9. The Spiral, Uzumaki, 2000. A quiet town becomes consumed, literally and mentally, by an eerie curse centered around spirals, drawing its residents into a nightmare they can't escape. Strange already, right? There's something haunting about a horror story where the evil isn't a monster, a ghost, or even a supernatural entity you can point at. It's a shape, a pattern that exists everywhere. Uzumaki turns that simple idea into something deeply unsettling. Imagine waking up one day and realizing the world around you is quietly twisting, coiling, tightening, like reality itself is being pulled down a drain. What would you do if something so harmless began to feel alive? The film pulls you in slowly, like a spiral's center tugging at your vision. At first, the town of Kuruzu-cho seems normal, even mundane, but the dread builds in tiny increments, the way someone stares too long at a snail's shell. The obsession etched into a face. The way spirals begin appearing where they shouldn't. It makes you question whether the horror is creeping in from another dimension, or whether the town's own fear is giving the shape power. Doesn't that idea get under your skin a bit? Fear creating reality? As more people fall under the spiral's influence, the atmosphere becomes dreamlike, almost hypnotic. You watch characters lose their sense of self, surrendering piece by piece as if the pattern is rewriting their minds. And the strangest part is how relatable it feels. Haven't we all had moments where something trivial starts to feel overwhelming? Like a thought you can't shake no matter how hard you try. Now imagine that thought taking physical form, spreading through your world like a quiet infection. The parallel world element sneaks in subtly. The spirals feel like cracks between dimensions, portals that warp perception, time, and even the human body. The transformations are grotesque but mesmerizing. as if the town is slipping into an alternate reality shaped entirely by obsession. It makes you wonder, are they being pulled into a different world? Or is that world unfolding from within them? And which possibility is scarier to you? By the time the curse tightens its grip, Kuruzu-cho feels like a place suspended between realities, spiraling deeper into something no one can comprehend. There's a helplessness to it, a sense that the town isn't just cursed, it's chosen, marked, destined, and that leads to a chilling question I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Do you think people fall into madness because of the world around them? Or because of something already inside waiting to be awakened? If a simple spiral began appearing around you, becoming more and more frequent, on walls, in nature, in the sky itself, would you shrug it off, or would you start to worry that something was calling you toward its center? 10. Coherence, 2013. A simple dinner among friends unravels into a terrifying maze of parallel realities when a comet passes overhead, if you think you know your own world. This film dares you to question that. There's something uniquely unsettling about Coherence, not because it screams or jumps at you, but because it whispers the kind of fear that crawls under your skin, the fear of losing your sense of reality. Imagine sitting with people you've known for years, laughing, eating, talking, only to realize, little by little, that something feels off, a look held too long, a reaction that doesn't fit, a version of someone you swear isn't yours. Have you ever felt that strange moment when reality seems to glitch? Even for just a second? As the comet streaks across the sky, the world subtly fractures, and what I love about this story is how quietly the terror builds. It doesn't force you, it lures you. The characters step outside, and suddenly the street feels unfamiliar, like a copy that isn't perfect. A house that looks like theirs stands just down the road, a door left open when no one remembers opening it. And you start to wonder, what if it isn't the world changing? What if you slip somewhere else? The film traps you in this creeping sense of disorientation. Every conversation feels charged. Every decision feels like it nudges the characters further away from the world they thought they belonged to. And the scariest part? The chaos doesn't come from monsters or spirits, it comes from other versions of themselves. If there were another, you, out there, walking around with your memories and choices, would you trust them? Would you trust yourself? As the night spirals, the dinner party becomes a haunting exploration of identity. The characters' flaws, insecurities, and fears begin to divide them, almost literally. Parallel realities overlap like shattered glass, each shard reflecting a slightly different version of the same people, which begs a fascinating question. In a multiverse of infinite yous, who is the real one? And does it even matter if all of them believe they are? What grips you most is how the film forces you to imagine yourself in that house. No special effects, no explosions, just raw, intimate panic at the idea that your world might not be stable. And that one wrong step could land you in a place where nothing fits quite right. If you were in that situation, lost among countless parallel versions of your own life, how would you decide which one to return to? And more importantly, how would you know you picked the right one? Because here's the chilling truth Coherence wants you to face. Sometimes the scariest world isn't another dimension, it's the one you wake up in every day, wondering if something has quietly shifted while you weren't looking. And just like Coherence leaves you questioning what's real, this whole journey through parallel world horrors reminds us how fragile our reality truly is. Maybe that's why these films stay with us long after the credits fade. They make you wonder what's hiding just one step to the left of your world. So tell me, which of these movies twisted your mind the most? Or did one of them make you question your own reflection for a second? If you enjoyed this trip into the unknown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's so much more waiting on the other side.